All right, I think it should be working now. So sorry for the delay. Had some technical difficulties. I am excited for this one. I'm going to talk about the different levels of bookkeeping services, and I'm going to start by talking about beginner bookkeeping services that you can offer right now. I'm going to go through different levels. Level one, most basic bookkeeping services. Number two, kind of intermediate bookkeeping services. And number three, more advanced stuff, borderline controller and fractional CFO. Was having some technical difficulties. Let me know in the chat if you can see me, if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. It looks like I already have a ton of people in this live chat. So I'm going to go through my notes first, and I have a ton of really great information for you. And hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. So I have a ton of great information for you. I'm going to go through my notes and then I'm going to get to the questions. There's going to be a live Q&A portion. Yesterday we had so many questions that I was not able to get to all the questions. So I had one person yesterday do something that I didn't even know was possible. There was a super chat, and so somebody paid like $2 for a super chat, and so I was able to get to their question. So I'm not saying you have to pay to ask questions, but if I have so many questions that I can't get to all of them, I will prioritize the super chats first. So you could ask questions, you absolutely don't have to pay, but if there are a ton of questions, I might not have time to get to everybody. So if you really want me to answer your question, go ahead and throw in a super chat. I'm going to do all the super chats first after I get done with my notes. And let's just jump right into it. So, if you don't know who I am, my name is Zach Pasquarello. I started my bookkeeping business 5 years ago. I built it up to 85 bookkeeping clients. Now I have an investment fund, I have an education business, I have a bookkeeping business, and I primarily just talk about my bookkeeping business because honestly, I love talking about it. I love teaching people, I love helping people. Everything I talk about is based on my own personal experience. So I started my bookkeeping business 5 years ago with no experience. And now I'm basically just going to give you some tips, give you some tricks on what I have done to grow my bookkeeping business, specifically with the type of services that I was offering in the very beginning. So we have level one, level two, level three. So level one, basic bookkeeping services. Think basic data entry, very basic understanding of debits and credits, basic understanding of QuickBooks Online, simple monthly financial reports, very basically reconciling maybe just a bank account, maybe just a credit card, not really totally sure what to do, how to do it, but you have a basic understanding. You probably passed your QBO certification course. You probably maybe took intro to accounting, maybe bought my course. You have a basic understanding of debits and credits in QuickBooks Online. At this point, you're just getting started. You might not have any clients. Maybe you have one, maybe two clients. And I would recommend probably charging $2 per transaction. Depending on where you live, maybe $3 per transaction, but you're probably in that $2 to $3 per transaction range. And at this point, you really don't know what you're doing. At this point, you're probably making a ton of mistakes. At least I know I did when I was just getting started. Level one, basic, brand new, just getting started, little to no experience, first 6 months, but it's okay. Here's the thing. You have to get experience. Here's the thing, you're going to make mistakes. I made mistakes. You can't, what's the famous quote? Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game, right? You can't let the fear of making mistakes keep you from advertising and marketing and getting bookkeeping clients, because the only way you're going to learn and get better and build confidence and get experience is by getting your first couple clients. So you're going to make mistakes. My number one piece of advice for everybody, just simply don't make the same mistake twice, right? That's all you can do. We're all human. We all make mistakes. So level one, very basic. Here's some examples of level one tasks for beginners. Setting up a new QuickBooks file. You should know how to add clients. You should have a QuickBooks Online accountant account, and you should know how to create a QuickBooks account for one of your clients. You should know how to connect the accounts to the bank feed. You should know how to manually import transactions into the bank feed. And if you don't know how to do these, I have a ton of great tutorials on my YouTube channel. QuickBooks also has a ton of great tutorials on their website. You could literally just search in Google how to connect my bank account to the QuickBooks Online bank feed, and it's going to tell you, it's going to have a tutorial, a video. It's going to show you exactly what to do. Something else you should be able to do, recording income and expense transactions. Maybe you can't do advanced journal entries, but you should know how to, basically you're going to record transactions one of three ways inside of QuickBooks as a level one beginner. Either manually by clicking the plus new button in the top left-hand corner. You can manually create an expense, a check, a sales receipt, a bank deposit, and invoices, bills, journal entries. You can manually create transactions. I don't recommend doing that, but if you absolutely have to, it's a good option. Or you can set up rules in the QuickBooks Online bank feed. So you can also do that. And it's very important to have very specific bank text details, because I don't want to go off of the description. I don't want to rely on QuickBooks artificial intelligence trying to guess where these transactions belong. I want to go very specifically, basically if then statement. If a transaction has these specific letters and words in their bank detail, bank text, then categorize it like this. So for example, if a transaction has the word Amazon in the bank detail, categorize it as expense, payee, Amazon, category, office supplies. So you can manually record transactions, you can utilize the rules in the QuickBooks bank feed, or you can just manually add transactions in the QuickBooks bank feed. One of three ways to record transactions. Two of them are in the QuickBooks bank feed. One is manually with the plus new button. And then also, as a level one, you also want to be able to match deposits and payments in the bank feed. So that's, I guess, probably a fourth way to add transactions in QuickBooks. And you're going to match transactions when they were already manually created. So if you manually create an invoice for $1,000 and then you have a bank deposit for $1,000, you would want to match that bank deposit to the invoice. Or if you have a bill for $500 and then you mark that bill as paid in QuickBooks, and then the $500 comes out of your bank feed, out of your bank account, you want to match that $500 bank transaction to the $500 bill payment. So when do you move to level one, level two, from level one to level two? At this point, you probably understand bookkeeping workflows from start to finish. So you probably have some experience. You probably have 5 clients. You've probably been doing this for 6 months. You've probably made a ton of mistakes. You might have even upset a client or two by making mistakes, but the good news is you're learning from your mistakes. And so you understand the bookkeeping workflow from start to finish, creating an account, connecting accounts, recording transactions, reconciling accounts, generating financial reports, start to finish. You can close the monthly books without guidance. You don't need help. You're not calling your teacher. You're not calling me. You're not calling your CPA. You're not watching a ton of YouTube videos. You know how to close monthly books without guidance. You're ready to handle multiple clients consistently. At this point, you already have 2, 3, maybe 4 clients, and now you're ready to grow to 5, 10, 20 bookkeeping clients, and you can manage that workflow on a monthly basis consistently. You have a deep, complete understanding of debits and credits. So not just basic, not just debit expense, credit cash, not just debit the bank account, credit income. At this point, you have a deep understanding of debits and credits. You can do multiple line journal entries, and you're able to reconcile complex accounts. So it's not just bank accounts and credit card accounts that need to be reconciled. Lines of credit, loans, sometimes prepaid expenses, sometimes other liabilities, other accounts need to be reconciled. And you're an expert in QuickBooks Online. So it's not just bookkeeping fundamentals that you need to know. You need to know bookkeeping fundamentals, but you also need to know QuickBooks Online. It's almost kind of like if you were to study to become a mechanic. If you were able to take a test and you're able to pass the test, congratulations. On paper, you know how to be a mechanic. But then you go to the car and it's like, okay, can you actually take a wrench and can you actually change the oil in the car? So bookkeeping fundamentals, taking the test, studying the course, taking intro to accounting, that's great. But now you need to actually be able to apply the knowledge that you learn. So you need to be an expert in QuickBooks Online. The software is constantly changing. There's payroll, there's reports, there's connections, there's third-party app connections. There's so many different settings and different nuances and different bugs, customers, vendors. There's a lot of things, classes, projects. There's a lot of things in QuickBooks that you need to be an expert on. So when you transition from level 1 to level 2, now you are an expert. And let me just take a quick pause and let me just say, if you're just now joining, you can ask questions in the chat and I will do my best to answer everybody's questions. But if there are too many questions, then I might only do the super chat. So if you have a question that you really want to ask and you really want me to answer, go ahead and do a super chat. I think it's like $1.99, and I will prioritize all of the super chats in the chat, and then I'll try to get to everybody else's question. You don't have to pay to ask questions, but if you really want me to answer your question, it might be a good idea to do a super chat. Stick around till the end because I'm going to stay here for an hour until 11 o'clock, and I'm going to try to answer everybody's questions. And then also, you see there on the bottom of the screen, this video is sponsored by Zip Capital. I have an investment fund offering 8% up to 12% fixed returns to accredited investors. You have to be a US citizen. If you want to learn more, I'd love to chat with you about Zip Capital. You can register on my website. The link is down below. Okay, let's get back to my notes. So what level 2 bookkeeping services include? Things like accounts receivable, accounts payable. I can manage that for some of my clients. That's a more advanced level 2 type of bookkeeping service. And when I say managing accounts receivable and accounts payable, I'm talking full cycle. So I receive the bill from my client, I enter it into QuickBooks, I run accounts payable aging detail report, I see what needs to be paid this week, I log into their bill pay or their online banking system, whatever they're using. I literally pay the bills, and then I match the bill payments in the QuickBooks bank feed to the bill payments in QuickBooks. Same thing with accounts receivable, full cycle management, receive the information from the client, send the invoice to the customer, follow up, set up recurring follow-ups for overdue late invoices, receive the payment, and then match the bank deposit to the received payment. Preparing profit and loss and balance sheet. This is also part of level 1, but it's also part of level 2. You need to be able to prepare the P&L and the balance sheet. QuickBooks makes it very easy. So generating the financial reports doesn't really require any skills, but categorizing the transactions, reconciling the accounts, as long as you do those first 2 steps correctly, then the P&L balance sheet should be ready to go. But level 2, a more advanced level might be now you're able to analyze and interpret the balance sheet and the P&L. You're able to actually review the balance sheet to make sure it all looks correct. So basically, level 1, you might just be sending the P&L to the client. Level 2, now you're actually able to check it before you send it, check it, make sure it looks good, double click some things and see if there's any discrepancies. Payroll journal entries in QuickBooks Online. So payroll taxes, payroll wages, maybe we're splitting direct labor, indirect labor, 1099 processing in QuickBooks Online. This is definitely level 2. If you're level 1, if you're just getting started, if you don't want to do 1099s, guess what? You don't have to. Just tell that to your client. Like, hey, sorry, not doing 1099s this year, maybe next year. But once you're level 2, once you have a year or 2 of experience, definitely process 1099s in QBO. Class tracking, project tracking, definitely more advanced, but a lot of your clients will need that, will appreciate that. Complex journal entries, real estate, HUD, trucking companies, maybe getting owner statements from your factoring company or from your broker or any other journal entry, payroll, liabilities, accruals, prepaid expenses, unearned revenue, all those complex journal entries at level 2, you should be able to do those things. So I'll just be totally honest with you. I view myself as a level 2 bookkeeper. So definitely level 1, first year, maybe first 2 years. And then year 3 and 4, I mastered level 2. So I am probably a master level 2 bookkeeper at this point. And how to price level 2 bookkeeping services, I would say at least $3, maybe $4 per transaction. So I look at the 3 most recent months and I average out their average number of monthly transactions. And then I multiply that by $3 or $4, depending on if they need class tracking or project tracking or how complex their business is. And then I also price accounts receivable and accounts payable management separately. So if they need me to manage AR or AP, then I will charge at least $100 per month to manage accounts payable, at least $100 per month to manage AR. And then if they have a lot, then I'll do $5 per month per average accounts payable, $10 per month per average accounts receivable. And then adjust pricing based on transaction volume and complexity. So I said $3 to $4 per transaction, but if they have 20 bank accounts and 10 credit cards, obviously you're going to charge more. If they are a real estate investor and they need class tracking and they have 10 acquisitions and 10 dispositions every single month, obviously you're going to charge a little bit more. Communicate. I talked about this yesterday. By the way, if you missed yesterday's live, it's on my podcast and it's on my YouTube channel. I talk a lot about the offer, our bookkeeping services as an offer. And I talk a lot about communicating the value that we deliver to the customers, not just the tasks that we do, but the actual value that we provide. And I highlight the consistency and the reliability of hiring a bookkeeper. So this actually literally just happened to me this morning. I had somebody call me and they say, "Hey Zach, I don't know if you remember, but you used to do my bookkeeping about a year ago, and we switched away from you because my CPA offered to do the bookkeeping for $25 less per month." So basically the same price, but the client thought that it would be a better, easier transition to just have the CPA do the taxes and the bookkeeping. So they fired me a year ago. I was charging them $225 per month, and they went with their CPA at $200 per month. And he called me this morning. He said, "My books are a mess." He said, "My CPA hasn't done anything all year." He said, "I wish I just would have stuck with you. I regret leaving you to save $25 per month. I honestly, it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was just because I thought it would be easier to have my CPA do my taxes and my bookkeeping. But now I want to hire you back. Can you please help me?" And not to mention, their business doubled over the past year. So now their books are a mess. Their business is growing. And I calmly said, "Hey, just want to let you know, not mad." Obviously, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that, like, I'm not mad. I'm not frustrated, but I do just want to let you know this happens all the time. I try to tell my clients that during sales consultations. They're like, "I need help with 2 years of tax returns. I'm so far behind." I try to tell people this happens all the time. You're not alone. And I do that. I do that for two reasons. One, it makes me look experienced because makes me look like, "Hey, I've been there. I've done this before. I've handled this. I have experience with this. Don't worry. I've seen this before." So it makes me look like I know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing, but it reassures the client, like, "Oh, thank God he's been through this before. He's seen this before." But it also makes the client feel better. And genuinely, I do want to make them feel better about themselves. So I tell them, "Hey, don't worry. This happens all the time. You're not alone. People do this all the time. A lot of people think it's easier to go to their CPA for their bookkeeping because it's just done all in one. But what people don't realize is that CPAs prioritize taxes and audits, and they don't prioritize bookkeeping. So yeah, they might have said they were going to do your bookkeeping, but in reality, they're probably just going to do it at the end of the year, come tax time. So it is a lot better to hire a bookkeeper. So I say all that because I try to highlight my value as consistency and reliability. I'm in your books every week. I'm in your books every month. I'm reconciling your accounts. I'm sending you your P&L first 10 business days of every month. I'm asking questions every week. I'm not waiting until the end of the year to do your bookkeeping. So that's level 2. So what level 3 bookkeeping services include? And stick with me, everybody. I know there's a ton of questions. Let me just see real quick if anybody has done any super chats. Okay, no super chats. So there's probably a ton of questions. So if you really want to prioritize your question and definitely want your question to be answered, go ahead and throw a super chat in there. If not, no worries. I'm just going to start from the top and just work my way down through the questions. Let's see. Okay, level 3 bookkeeping services. So I mentioned before, I don't necessarily consider myself to be a level 3 bookkeeper. I find myself as just a level 2. And this is also kind of a gray area because at this point, level 3 advanced, we're really probably getting into more controller, fractional CFO. So this is probably not even considered bookkeeping services. But if you want to call yourself a bookkeeper, you could have a level 3 bookkeeping service. And at this point, I would probably you don't have to refer yourself as a fractional CFO. You can just call yourself a bookkeeper, but this is advanced financial analysis, reporting, budgeting, forecasting, cash flow management, audit prep, tax assistance with an audit. This is really advanced stuff. And this is not this is stuff that I don't do. So I give the comparison. A bookkeeper tells you what happened in the past. A controller, a fractional CFO might tell you what's going to happen in the future. So that's the past to the future is a big distinction between a bookkeeper and a CFO. That's where I draw the line. I will generate your financial reports, but after the financial reports are generated, I'm done. I'm not analyzing your reports. I'm not giving you guidance or feedback on what you should do in the future or what might happen in the future. That's where I separate myself. And I don't do this because I just like to keep my offer very simple, just personal preference. I like to keep my offer very simple. I'm confident in myself as a bookkeeper. I know sometimes bookkeepers can kind of have a bad reputation as just being like kind of menial labor, underappreciated assistants. virtual assistant, office manager, office administrator, nothing wrong with that. But people just don't value those types of services quite as much as controller, fractional CFO, accountant, CPA. Like those sound a lot more important than bookkeeper, office manager, virtual assistant, administrative assistant. But just be confident. We can make a ton of money. Here's the thing. If you want to do fractional CFO services just because you want to make a ton of money, that's not why you should do it, because I'm living proof. I'm here today saying that I had 80 bookkeeping clients. I was making $40,000 per month. Now it's about 70. So I'm still making, what is that? I don't know, $35,000 per month just doing bookkeeping. I don't do fractional CFOs. So if you want to make a lot of money, then you don't have to do that. You don't have to do controller CFO services. But if you're just trying to make money, you can just do bookkeeping. But if you really want to do that stuff, if that stuff gets you excited, if you like the idea of doing the advanced analysis, the advanced reporting, the budgeting, the forecasting, the cash flow, if you want to do that, then sure, go ahead and do it. Don't let anybody stop you, but don't just do it just because you want to make a lot of money. If you do want to do it, here's how you can do it. Have 2 or 3 different packages. You can literally call it level 1, level 2, level 3, basic, intermediary, advanced, whatever you want to call it. Advanced accounting analytics, whatever you want to call it. Basic bookkeeping, advanced accounting analytics, kind of some alliteration for you. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But the basic package, I'm just doing those 3 things. I'm just recording transactions, reconciling accounts, generating financial reports, maybe doing class tracking. That's $3 or $4 per transaction. And then maybe the intermediate. Here, I can manage your accounts payable and your accounts receivable, and I can do your complex journal entries for you. Maybe that's an extra $200 per month. And then we have the advanced accounting analytics, and this is the $2,000 per month package. So this is $500 per month for just bookkeeping, and then an extra $1,500 for the advanced accounting analytics, the fractional CFO, the controller type services. Very important though. You need to have very clear scope of work. You need to very clearly, if you're just a beginner, don't even worry about this. But if you've been doing bookkeeping for 3 or 4 years and you're like, hey, I'm ready to level up, I'm ready to literally level up to level 3 and get to that next level and start offering more advanced services, I don't do this. So I'm just kind of speaking hypothetically, theoretically here. I don't actually have experience with this, but if I were to do this, I would offer this as a totally separate package, and I would very clearly tell them what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell them, hey, I'll be your fractional CFO. I'll do whatever you want for the next 30 days for $1,500 per month. That's not how you want to do it. Here's the package. Here's what I do. Here's the reports that I'll give you. Here's the meetings that we'll have. Here's whatever that looks like. Just be very clear, very specific. So how do you identify when you're ready for level 3? You can interpret financial data, not just recording transactions, but actually analyzing and interpreting the data. You're confident leading client strategy meetings. That's what I was talking about. Not just what happened in the past, but what might happen in the future. Client strategy meetings. And you've built systems to manage multiple accounts efficiently. So you already have experience, level 1, level 2. You've already managed 20, 30 clients. Now you're ready to get to the next. So use clear how to communicate your service levels to your clients. I'm almost done here. I got 2 more main talking points, a couple sub talking points, and then I promise I'll get to everybody's questions. If I can, I'm going live for the next 30, 35-ish minutes. Use clear tiered packages. So simple start is the basic bookkeeping package, essentials, advanced, level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever you want to call it. Just clearly articulate your packages and emphasize the results. Don't just emphasize the tasks. Don't tell people that I'm going to generate your financial reports, or you don't tell people that I'm going to, I don't know, I don't have a good example, but don't focus on the tasks, focus on the outcome. What are you going to do for your clients? I'm going to reduce your stress. I'm going to help you manage your cash flow. I'm going to help you forecast your revenue, like communicate the results, get to people's emotions. You want to solve people's problems. You want to free up their time and reduce their stress and help their business grow. So those are the 3 things you want to focus on. Focus on their emotions. Don't necessarily focus on the boring bookkeeping tasks. Us as accountants, we know the bookkeeping tasks that we're doing, but the clients don't care about that. The clients care about their revenue, the growth of their business, their cash flow, their time and their stress. So focus on those things when you're articulating what you're going to do for your client. Now, how to scale your bookkeeping business through these levels. Two things. Three things. Build SOPs for recurring client work. So I'll be honest, I'm terrible at this. Everything is stored up here. I'm terrible at writing things down, recording Loom videos, building SOPs for recurring client work. But if you want to grow your bookkeeping business and hire people or sell your business, you have to start writing these things down and start doing it early. I'm terrible at it. I don't do it, but I wish I did it. Hire help or delegate lower level tasks if you want to. Once again, I don't do this. I do all the work myself. But if you need help, then hire help, build SOPs, train bookkeepers, delegate lower level tasks. And then finally, focus your time on high level advisory and business development, client acquisition, client relationships. So once you do hire that help, once you do hire people and delegate those lower level tasks, then you can focus more on being the face of the company, having strategic client meetings, high level advisory, building client relationships, business development, if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you want, that's where you can get to in the next level. Okay, that's it for my notes. Now let's see. Let's go through all of the questions. Let's see. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if that was helpful. Okay, I'm just going to start from the top here. Junior Wing King. I know you answer questions in the order received, so getting ahead of this, do you request the client uploads receipts for every purchase? No, I do not require that the clients upload receipts for every purchase. I do encourage my clients to keep their receipts, but I don't require that they upload their receipts. Is there a money threshold? Yes, $75 is usually a good rule of thumb, but I just tell my clients you should keep all your receipts. Just tell people, keep all your receipts. You don't need to give them to me, but you should keep them. I actually charge more. If you want me to match your receipts to your transactions in QuickBooks, I charge more for that. That's a lot more work. So I would charge an extra $1 for all of their transactions. So if they have 100 transactions per month, you're charging them $300. And if they want you to match receipts to transactions, even if it's only 20 or 30 receipts, like they might not have a receipt for every transaction, but if they want me to match receipts to their transactions, then I charge $4 per transaction for all their transactions. Still getting familiar with my first client's books, and I'm a little lost with how to categorize or memo transactions with just the description from the bank feed. So I don't add a description or a memo unless the client specifically wants me to. So I will only add a description if the client says like, hey, here's an expense, like I want this to be specifically labeled this way. So whenever I'm categorizing transactions, I just do two things. Who did you pay? What did you buy? That's it. When I'm categorizing transactions, that's it. Now, if it's a journal entry, I will add some description. Or if it's an invoice or an accounts payable, I will add a description. But I usually get that information from the client. I'm not just making that information up. If my client had to tell me how to categorize every transaction, he wouldn't need me, right? I think receipts would simplify that. Yeah. So really, you're just taking the bank detail and you're just figuring out who did you pay. And then based on who they paid, that's how you're categorizing them. So if you go to Home Depot and buy 5 shovels, I can just record that as job supplies. I don't need to say 5 shovels in the bank detail. I just need to say Home Depot job supplies, Amazon office supplies, Facebook advertising and marketing, utility company, whatever it is, PPL, UGI, utilities. Let's see. He's a smaller, newer landscaper, and I hate to advise him to take on more work and scare him off. If my client, I'm not sure. Let's see. He also deposits checks from customers in bulk. So any tips on how I can match these bulk deposits to customer invoices? Would he have to tell me who the deposits were for, or is there an easier way? There is no easier way. So that's the thing. So I actually recommend all my clients try to deposit their checks separately, depending on how many they get. If they're getting 10 or more checks every single day, then that's not possible. But if they're just getting 5 checks per week, I try to tell my clients it would make your books more accurate and a little bit cleaner if you deposit your checks individually. And it might take you an extra 2 minutes at the bank. It's just as simple as handing the checks to the bank teller and saying, hey, please deposit these bank checks individually. So that way you can match the bank deposits to the individual invoices much easier. But yeah, if you don't know, you can't guess. If they have accounts receivable in their QuickBooks, then you'll have to send them a list of the bank deposits if you can't figure it out. And you'll have to say, hey, which invoices match these bank deposits? The other thing is they don't have to track their accounts receivable in QuickBooks. So if they want to, if they're using QuickBooks to track their AR, fine. But if they're using some third party, which a lot of landscapers and contractors do this, if they're using third party software to manage their accounts receivable, you don't also need to track that in QuickBooks. If you're cash basis and not accrual basis, then you can just simply record the bank deposits as income. You don't need accounts receivable in QuickBooks if you're cash basis. If you're accrual basis, yes, you need to track invoices, but cash basis, don't. If you're already tracking invoices somewhere else, there's no need to be redundant with your QuickBooks. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to show my client that hiring me will make him more hands off in the transactions, but honestly, I feel like I'm making more work for him. So sometimes doing things the right way is more work. So that's kind of the problem. Doing things the right way is more work sometimes, but really you can do everything in QuickBooks for him. So the idea is that you're just sending emails, you're just asking questions through email, and he just has to answer your questions via email. So theoretically, your client should not have to go into QuickBooks ever again. Like they don't have to go into QuickBooks. I will do everything in QuickBooks, but yes, I'm still going to have to ask you questions. You're still going to have to tell me, answer questions. Like if there's a $50,000 wire deposit, I can't possibly know where that came from. So there is some communication. That is actually the hardest part about delivering high quality customer service to clients is that communication, getting that information from your clients. Wendy Johnson, when you say view only access for client statements, how does that work? Is it specific to business accounts? Yes. So if they have a business bank account, they can add you as a user and then they can manage your authorizations or your accessibility. So they can give you access to just view the bank account, not to actually move money or do bill pay or do anything like that. They can just give you access to view the bank transactions and the bank statements and the checks so that you can get a little bit more information. And then also, this is so underrated. If you have your own access to somebody's bank account, then you can use your username and password to connect that bank account to the QuickBooks bank feed. If you have any experience with QuickBooks, you probably already know the bank accounts get disconnected all the time. It's so frustrating. And so you're constantly asking the client to reconnect their bank account to the bank feed. But if you have view only access, if you have your own username and password, you can do that. You can update that connection on your own. So super helpful. Let's see, more questions. Let's see. Let me just do one thing real quick, see if that helps. Keep asking questions, guys. These questions are really great. I'm making these videos for you. So hopefully these questions and these answers are helpful. Okay. Let's see. Where are we? Oh my goodness. I need somebody to help me manage all these questions. Scrolling down just a little bit. Sorry about that delay. Do you send any reports besides a P&L of the previous month and their balance sheet? Nope. The only report that I send is a P&L. I don't send the balance sheet. I only send the profit and loss. I do have one client. It all depends on the client. I have one client who asks me to send his P&L cash basis and P&L accrual basis. I have another client who wants me to send their P&L and an itemized list of their transactions from the month before. So I send them the P&L and then I literally send them an Excel spreadsheet of all their transactions. That's actually a really good idea. So if you get a brand new client who kind of seems like a mess, something that you could do is you could send them all of their transactions and you could say, hey, just want to let you know, here's how I recorded all of your transactions. Let me know if you want me to make any changes. I love doing that. I love sending information to the client, encouraging them to review it and say, if you want me to make any changes, let me know. That way I've done everything I can do to ensure that everything is as accurate as possible. I'm not saying that I'm off the hook for anything, but I have told you, here's all the information, review it. Let me know if you want me to make any changes. I love doing that because then I feel confident that I've done everything I can to do the best bookkeeping that I can. Okay. A client recently told me their last bookkeeper never got the beginning equity balance figured out and asked me to help fix it. How would I do that? Does the opening equity matter? So, Johnny, I wonder what they're talking about. I wonder if they're talking about the beginning balance of their bank account or the beginning balance. Like, what are they talking about? If they're talking about the beginning balance of their bank account, then you're just going to simply take their bank statement and look at their balance sheet, look at their trial balance, look at the chart of accounts, look at the bank account on the books. So if you're starting in 2024, January 2024, you're going to take the December 2023 bank statement, look at the ending balance, or you could take the January 2024, look at the beginning balance. It should be the same number. Ending balance, December, beginning balance, January, same number. And then look at the QuickBooks. Look to see, does this number match? Does the number on the bank account as of 12/31/2024 match the number on the bank statement as of 12/31/2024? Johnny, do you send your any reports? Already got that question. Let's see. Wendy Johnson, I think he's saying, yep, thank you for answering that. Johnny, my real estate investor client recently received payment for a loan payoff overage on the HUD. He paid more than he actually owed and got a refund. How would I categorize that to keep everything tidy and accurate? That is finance cost or interest paid. That's just a refund for interest paid. So, however you recorded the interest on that loan, just record the overage payoff as the same thing. So if you paid $1,000 in interest, but then got a $200 check back, then that means you just $1,000 interest expense, $200 bank deposit interest expense. So now 1,000 minus, now it's $800 net. So 1,000 minus 200. So just record the interest loan payoff overage as however you recorded the interest payment. So probably interest expense or finance cost. Let's see. A couple more questions. Is he lot? Yeah, I can't see anything. So sorry about those technical difficulties, everybody. Listening. Good morning, Iris. Listening today in the store that's going out of business. Got questions up next. Iris, let me know what your questions are. Let's see. A couple more questions. Okay, Iris. Client was sole prop and now LLC. Bank feed EXP from personal, how to show from business, journal entry example. Iris, that's a little bit unclear. I'm not super sure what you meant. If you could maybe try to ask that question in a little bit more clearly, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. Bob Rivera, how do you suggest cleaning up someone's books who mixed personal credit card purchases with business credit card purchases? Okay, so this is really complicated. This is the worst thing ever as a bookkeeper. So I would probably try to figure out, are these more business or more personal? Usually it's skewed one way or the other. If it's majority business or if it's majority personal, figure that out first. You're going to schedule a meeting with the client and go over this account and start by asking questions like, are there general themes with the way you were spending your money? For example, every time you went to Home Depot, can I assume that was business? Yes. Okay, great. So now you know anytime there's Home Depot, that's business. Every time you went to a restaurant, can I assume that was a business travel or a business client restaurant expense? Yes. Okay, great. Get general themes like that first. Look for common transactions. This guy shops at Walmart a lot. He shops at Office Max a lot. He goes out to eat a lot. He gets a lot of gas from gas stations. Try to figure those things out first. And then once you figured out the bulk of the transactions based on like common vendors and common payees, then there's really no way to do it other than, hey, here's a list of because we're not mind readers. Here's the thing. If it's impossible for you to get the information, then you have to get the information from the client. And so kind of like what we were talking about before, you kind of feel like you're causing more work for the client. It is more work because now we're doing things correctly. We're doing things the right way. So if the client doesn't want to do any work, then I'll just record all the transactions as a business expense. But we know that's not the right way to do things. So if the client wants to do things properly, the right way, yeah, he's going to have to do some work because we're not mind readers. He needs to tell us, hey, no, that was business, that was personal. That's the benefit of keeping business and personal transactions separate. First of all, we charge per transaction. So if you've got all your personal transactions flowing through a business credit card, hello, you're paying $3 to me every time you swipe your credit card. So it's cost effective to keep business and personal separate, but it's also so much less work for the client because if everything's business, then I can figure out where you went by looking at the credit card bank detail. I can figure out where you if I know where you went, I can pretty much figure out what you bought. Like I can tell that's an insurance company, that's a utilities company, that's a software company, that's probably job supplies and materials, that's office supplies, that's software, that's you get the idea. Like you can figure out what it was. If it's all business, it's so much easier. Okay, a couple more questions. We got 15 more minutes left. Let's see. President-elect Corey, I can hear you now. I was watching the Hermosi video you just dropped. Awesome. Hopefully that was helpful. Alec, good morning. What do you tell clients when they ask how you came up with your monthly fee? It all depends on the size and complexity of your business. Super straightforward, a little bit ambiguous. I don't tell people that I charge $3 per transaction. I just tell people that I took a look at your bank statements and your credit card statements, and based on my experience, I judge the size and complexity of your business. Super straightforward, super simple. DFOS, hey Zach, just want to say how much I appreciate your content. I have an accounting degree and have never been passionate about it until I learned that I can start my own bookkeeping business. DFOS, that's exactly how I got started. So I took intro to accounting at Penn State before I knew I wanted to start a bookkeeping business. So I took intro to accounting, fell in love with accounting, and yeah, I started a bookkeeping business shortly thereafter. So DFOS, I can totally appreciate where you're coming from. Alec, I know you're experienced in trucking. Can you explain how settlements work in bookkeeping? If a client receives weekly settlements, how would you typically categorize those deposits? So you need to get their weekly settlement sheet from their broker or whoever is there, like whoever owns the truck or whoever's running the loads for them. You need to get the weekly settlement sheet. And so they might receive, I don't know, $800, but in reality, they got paid $1,200. And so this is really important because they will probably get a 1099 from their broker for $1,200, but they only received $800. So you need to do a journal entry. So this is that level 2 bookkeeping stuff that I was talking about. This is a little bit more advanced. So every time they receive a payout, you need to get the settlement sheet from them. And then you're going to credit income for $1,200. And then you're going to debit fuel expense for $300. And then you're going to debit ELD for $50. And then you're going to debit workers' comp insurance for $50. And then you're going to debit the bank account for $800. You see what I did there? Credit 1,200 income, debit 400, debit 300 fuel, 50 ELD, 50 insurance. So 1,200 minus 300 minus 50 minus 50 is 800. That's where you get the $800 bank deposit. But you don't want to just record that $800 bank deposit as income because you're missing an extra $400. And so that $400 is where the journal entry comes in. So credit 1,200 income, debit fuel 300, debit ELD 50, debit insurance 50, debit bank account 800. And that way 1,200 equals 1,200. So debits and credits really aren't that complex. They just always need to match. So double entry accounting. So credits always need to equal debits. There's always a solution. You just need to kind of figure it out, and it needs to make sense with their chart of accounts. Okay, Alec, if most of a client's debits are Zelle transfers, would you adjust your quote for monthly bookkeeping based on that activity and quote below $3 per transaction? If most of a clients are Zelle transfers, so I would probably charge more for Zelle transfers because that might be more work for you. So no, I keep it $3 per transaction within reason. So there's going to be some clients who have like crazy advertising spend. Like some advertising companies will pull out like one transaction every single day. Some software companies pull out one transaction every day. So if there's something crazy like that, that like, okay, I could just set up a rule for Google advertising and marketing and boom, that'll take, I don't know, like 30, 40, 50 transactions every single month, then maybe I'll reduce their bookkeeping price by $100. But for the most part, honestly, no. I really just count the transactions and multiply by 3 because you got to keep in mind, even simple transactions, that's just more room for error. So bookkeeping is not just recording transactions, but it's reconciling accounts. And there's always going to be at least one error at some point in a book's lifetime. So if there's 500 transactions, I don't care, even if they're all going the exact same place and it's super simple, that's still potentially 500 transactions that you have to sort through if there is an error or if there's an interruption in the bank feed or if there's a missed transaction. So just because they seem simple, you still can't adjust your price because there's always going to be things, there's always going to be extra stuff that pops up. Bob, you mentioned making mistakes as a beginner. Can you give us an idea of some common mistakes? So, for real estate investing, a common mistake would be not class tracking. A common mistake would be just looking at the wire deposits and just assuming that that was just like a single line transaction. So whenever you buy a house or sell a house, just viewing those wire transfers as just one single transaction. But in reality, there's levels to the transaction. So one transaction for the purchase of a house could actually be 10, 15, 20 line journal entry. Another thing, payroll liabilities, payroll expenses. That's a big mistake. You have to split payroll taxes and payroll wages so that it matches the W-3 at the end of the year. Undeposited funds and invoices not being recorded properly. So you need to check the balance sheet. You need to check undeposited funds and you need to make sure that your income's not being duplicated and you need to make sure there's not lingering undeposited funds. Those are just a couple of mistakes. But yeah, mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes always happen. The best, and then the other mistake that you could possibly make is just like not doing very simple things correctly. So like if you're sending invoices for a client and they say, hey, send an invoice on the 15th of every month to XYZ customer net 30, you might accidentally just do net 10 or net 15 or due on receipt. And that's just a simple mistake. And like stuff like that happens all the time. That's why you really have to double and triple check your work, especially when you're managing accounts payable and accounts receivable, because you're really involved in like the actual flow of money. David Gustave. My client gets paid from PayPal. I know I need to track the fees using journal entries. How would I track it if he still has money left in his PayPal account at year end and hasn't sent it to his bank? That's a good question. So I would maybe just do a journal entry. Maybe just do a journal entry for whatever you could probably figure out what his sale. That's kind of tough though. What his sales were. So you need to look at his PayPal fees. So you need to look at his PayPal fees and do a journal entry for that. So every single month. So let's say he deposits $800, but he really got $850 in income. So every month you're going to have to do a $50 journal entry. So debit PayPal fees for $50, credit income for $50. But if he has money left over in his PayPal bank account, then that would maybe be a journal entry to debit the PayPal bank account and credit income. That's what you might need to do. Debit the PayPal bank account as of 12/31/2024 and credit income. That's a little bit of a complicated situation, but yeah, it's a good question. Let's see. MN, for an HVAC client using House Call Pro, is it better to sync with QuickBooks or request user access to pull reports? I do not like to sync House Call Pro with QuickBooks. I think it's a big mistake. I don't think you should do it. That's the other thing. So what's the point? I'm assuming you're talking about accounts receivable. What's the point of connecting House Call Pro to QuickBooks so that you can redundantly track accounts receivable, right? It doesn't really make sense. Track invoices in House Call Pro, just track money received in QuickBooks as income. And then if you absolutely need to make a journal entry to adjust for accounts receivable monthly, quarterly, annually, you can. But you don't need to track invoices in two separate places. Even if you file on an accrual basis, you can just do a journal entry to true up outstanding accounts receivable on the balance sheet to record the income at the end of the year. I really don't like connecting third-party apps to QuickBooks. Chill day vibes, chill day vids. When are you going to drop how to do class tracking for real estate investors in your course for REI? When are you going to drop how to do class tracking? So I haven't added real estate investors to my course. I'm not sure. I should just do it. I don't know if I'll ever do it. Hopefully I do. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. MN, to quote, do we just need biz bank and credit card statements or also reports from House Call Pro? I don't think so. I don't need anything from House Call Pro other than maybe outstanding, like I said, outstanding accounts receivable at the end of the month if they are on accrual basis. But no, to quote, I just need bank and credit card statements. So fun fact, I don't offer any third-party software services. So if you're using House Call Pro or JobTread or any other third party, like I'm not logging in for you. I'm not logging in. I'm not pulling reports. If you have information you want to send me, you have to send me the spreadsheet or the report. I don't go into people's software. Just personal preference. If you really want to, if there's one specific software that keeps coming up a lot, like House Call Pro, and you want to become good at it, sure, maybe you can, but I don't. I choose not to. I don't want to. I'm only in QuickBooks Online. I don't want to learn any other software. Turmoil. I completed my final exam on a level 2. Not sure if I passed or not. Should I still make the jump and offer level 1 bookkeeping or get a part-time job for experience? I think you should start advertising your bookkeeping services right away. Start offering bookkeeping services right now. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they wait until they are 100% ready to go to start advertising and marketing. But here's the thing, it's going to take you 30, 60, 90 days to get your first bookkeeping client. So you might as well start advertising now, and then you can continue to learn bookkeeping. You can continue to refine your QuickBooks Online skills while you're trying to get your first client. So start advertising and marketing right away. Start your bookkeeping business right now. I don't think you need a part-time job to get experience. If you really want, you can do that if you've got some extra time. But honestly, if I could go back in time, I would have just spent all my extra time advertising and marketing, trying to get my own bookkeeping clients. I would not waste any time trying to get a part-time job. Mike Melee, sorry, there's something in my eye. Hi, Zach. I'm looking to offer services to real estate agents, investors, and entrepreneurs. Do you have resources on real estate accounting? So I probably have some videos on my YouTube channel on real estate accounting. Also, are there differences between these three people? Absolutely. Absolutely. Real estate agents are totally different from real estate investors. Real estate agents are just salespeople. Real estate brokers are brokers and they have agents who work underneath them. So real estate brokers are buying and selling houses, but they're totally different from real estate agents. Agents are just the salespeople who work for the broker. So real estate broker, bookkeeping, much more complicated. Honestly, I've never had a real estate agent as a bookkeeping client. Most real estate agents don't make enough money to hire a bookkeeper, and most real estate agents don't have complicated enough books to have a bookkeeper. So real estate brokers, yes, they need bookkeepers. Real estate investors, absolutely, they need a bookkeeper. Their bookkeeping, real estate investor, totally different from real estate broker. Real estate investors are flipping houses, buying houses, holding rental properties. MN, we work with QuickBooks Online only. Any tips for consulting in HVAC business that used House Call Pro? What key questions should I ask? I don't know anything about House Call Pro, so no. The only thing that I would focus on is, hey, I'm not going to log into House Call Pro. Are you tracking your invoices over there? Great. Keep doing that. We don't need to track your invoices in QuickBooks. That's the biggest mistake. You don't need to track your invoices in QuickBooks if you're already tracking them in different software. Can you explain class tracking a little more in depth, Mike Melee? Sure. So class tracking is really just like a third variable for categorizing transactions. And so you can run reports based on class tracking. So who did you pay? Vendor, Home Depot. What did you buy? Job supplies. Chart of accounts, job supplies, interest, insurance, utilities, advertise, job supplies. What did you buy? Category. So who did you pay? What did you buy? And then which property does it go to? Which project does it go to? So you can run a P&L by class. So if I'm going to Home Depot and buying job supplies for two separate properties, I can differentiate between those two properties. And if I have a long-term rental at the end of the year, I can run a P&L by class and I can see job supplies for 123 Main Street, $5,000. Job supplies for 5 Pennsylvania Avenue, $6,000. Okay, that makes sense. I can see I spent $5,000 on this property, $6,000 on that property because of class tracking. You can also run a balance sheet by class. So I can see assets held, liabilities for different properties. So if you're flipping properties, you're going to want to have the house cost, holding cost, rehab cost, finance cost. And so you want to have all of those balance sheet accounts, and you want to utilize class tracking to keep all of that inventory or WIP or work in progress separated so that you can run a balance sheet by class and you can see how much have I spent on rehab? How much have I spent on holding cost, finance cost, house cost for each specific property? And you can do all that by class tracking. You need QuickBooks Plus, which is like 99 bucks per month. It's a separate feature. You need to enable class tracking in the settings. So click on the gear icon, go to advanced, and enable class tracking. Great for real estate investors. MB, can you tell me the name of the online PDF to CSV website you recommended to me earlier for bank statements? DocuClipper. Well, yes, DocuClipper will convert your PDFs into Excel spreadsheets or CSV. DocuClipper. QuickBooks Online, they also have a new feature where when you're importing transactions into QBO, you can just simply import a PDF. You can import a PDF into QuickBooks Online. All right, that's it. I see there's a few more questions, but okay. I see a super chat. All right, so I'm going to answer this one last super chat. Bookkeeping Conroe, do you have any questions? Zach, what's up, man? Love your videos. Hey, I appreciate it. Bookkeeping Conroe, did you ask a question? Because I don't see that you asked a question, but if you did, I'm so sorry. I don't see Bookkeeping Conroe. Okay, so as you guys can see, there were a ton of questions. Once again, I did not get to them. So I'm not saying you have to do a super chat for me to answer your questions, but that's a good way to get my attention. So Bookkeeping Conroe, appreciate the $2 super chat. I don't see that you asked a question. So sorry if I missed you. Yes, at the bottom. Yes, at the bottom. Okay, so Bookkeeping Conroe, send me an email. I don't see your question. So send me an email and I will answer your question. Keeper app question. Keeper app. So what about Keeper app? Because I don't have any experience with the Keeper app. So I've never used it. Here's my opinion. So Bookkeeper Conroe, I still can't. So ask it again, please, because I still can't see your question. But do you use Keeper app? So no, I don't use Keeper app. But so I host a weekly meeting every Monday at 3 p.m. I don't go live on Monday, but I host a private group meeting every Monday at 3 p.m. with other bookkeepers. And so there are a couple people in that meeting who have experience with Keeper. A couple of them have said they like it. A couple of them have said they don't like it. Here's my opinion on Keeper. I think from what I understand, it's a way that it's like a way that you can manage your clients. And so I think you can request information through Keeper. But here's the way I view it. Are your clients really going to check Keeper like it's hard enough to get my clients to answer my phone calls or respond to my emails. But so I just don't think Keeper is a good idea. I think the best way to ask questions to your clients is just through email. It's the most direct. It's the easiest way. Exactly. Janine just said Keeper is redundant. I agree. I've never actually used it, but I just feel like it's some fancy software that new bookkeepers think they need to make their lives easier. But honestly, I just kind of feel like Keeper just probably makes it more difficult. It overcomplicates things and makes it more difficult. So Elena Smith, I just see that you also, if you have a question, Elena Smith, I will answer your question. I don't see it. If you could ask it again. But yeah, hopefully Bookkeeping Conroe, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's a good answer for you. Yeah, I don't think you need Keeper. I don't think you need Keeper. I don't think your clients are going to use it. I don't think they're going to answer questions. My clients just send me their bank statements. They just send me their bank statements, or if they don't want to email me their bank statements, then they can upload them to their Google Drive or their Dropbox. Elena Smith, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. If not, I'm going to hop off. I can't really scroll. Oh, Elena Smith, I see your question now. Do you ever have a client that expects to have their transactions categorized daily, or is there something in the contract that says you categorize them once a week? There's nothing in the contract that says the frequency with which I will do people's bookkeeping, but I just tell people that I'm going to be in their books weekly. So my contract is actually available to download on my website, harrisburgbookkeeping.com/store. It's linked down below. But yeah, you can download my contract if you want. And I don't know, it doesn't say anything about recording transactions weekly. I just say that I will record your transactions, categorize your or reconcile your accounts, and generate your financial reports. I tell people over the phone that I'm going to do their bookkeeping weekly. Honestly, here's my perspective. Here's my opinion. These clients could not care less how you do their bookkeeping. They just want to know that you are doing their bookkeeping. So they're going to be like, yeah, sure, whatever, that's perfect. Here's what I've noticed. People don't really notice if you're doing a good job, which kind of sucks. They only really notice when you're doing a bad job. So if you do the bookkeeping every week and you ask questions and you send reports, they're like, "Yep, great, you're doing your job. You're doing what you're supposed to do." It's kind of like you take your car to get your oil changed. You go to the mechanic, they change your oil, and you pay them $100, and you're like, "Yeah, thanks." Like obviously, that's what I paid you to do, so appreciate it. And it's not a big deal. But I've had this happen to me before where I took it to get an oil change and they put too much oil in and then it started overflowing and then my car stopped working. And then I was like, yo, what's going on? This is not cool. I paid you to change my oil and now my car is shutting off and my check engine light's on and it's not working. Like this is really, really bad. So bookkeeping is the same way. You just kind of do it. You do a good job and it's a thankless, like no one really notices. But you do a bad job and all of a sudden everyone notices, everyone freaks out. So I love specializing in clients who have had a bad experience with a bad bookkeeper. I love that experience because they understand how painful it is to have a bad bookkeeper. They know what it's like. So I love specializing in people who have had bad bookkeepers. I come in knight in shining armor and I save the day and I do a good job. And they are very appreciative because they know how painful it is to have a bad bookkeeper. But yeah, Elena Smith, hopefully that answers your question. I think I only saw one question from you. So I appreciate the super chat. I'm going to hop off now. Yeah. So if anybody else has any questions, join me live tomorrow at 10 a.m. And if I missed your question today, we're going to use the super chat option for me to prioritize questions. But like you saw today, you don't have to do the super chat to get me to answer your questions. But I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you for watching these videos. I am here for you. So thank you so much. Check out all the links in the description of this video. I have my investment fund, Zip Capital, offering 8 to 12%. And I have a course to download that you can take the course and you can learn how to do bookkeeping, QuickBooks, sales, marketing, customer service. That's also linked below. I've got a free Facebook group. Follow me on all my social media channels. Today, I didn't really talk much about sales and marketing, but I do a lot of sales and marketing on my social media channels. So follow me on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, obviously, if you haven't already. I so appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for joining these lives. Let me know in the comments, are these lives helpful? Do you like are these motivating, inspiring, educational? I'm going to try to keep doing these. Obviously, it's a really big commitment on my end, but I'm going to try to keep doing these. I also, last thing, if you prefer to listen to a podcast while you're working out or driving in the car, I know I do. I post all of these videos to my podcast. I've got the same name, Bookkeeping Expert Zach Pasquarello, on Apple, on Spotify. So check me out on my podcast, follow me on social media, and tune in tomorrow, 10 a.m., same time, same place. I'm going live again. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.